Misha here, and this is going to be a bit of a different video for this channel. I guess it still is about history, but it's my personal history. You've seen this little gun before. Little North American 22 short revolver. I bring it out from time to time to shoot it. But what you might not know, one reason I have it, and I do think it's a cool little gun. I like the craftsmanship, made up in Utah. But it was actually a birthday gift from my father many a moon ago. So it has some special meaning there. Itty bitty. North American. It definitely has some jump to it, as you see. Doesn't help that my hands are sweaty as all get out. It was far jumpier when I had the original rosewood grips on it. Very pretty, I'm sure, but yeah. But what I wanted to talk about today are two guns that I have a much longer and older history with, including this high standard, effectively what's a high capacity. This was a gun I inherited when my father passed away, and it's one of the guns that I shot as a young child, probably out here at the cabin. Well, in this general area, probably across the road. But yeah, I grew up shooting it. Time for the high standard here. I think they make a speed loader for this. To be fair, 9 shots in a revolver, even a 22, and they obviously thought it was enough of a draw to put it in as part of the name. Certainly an old Western style gun. One more in there. Almost be kind of cool if it had a loading gate. It's been a long while since this has probably been fired too. We'll find out though. That's my problem with revolvers. My finger's a little short. See? Just a single action. I would not be a good gunslinger. Rolling the shame I'm not. But we're having fun. At least you probably are. You're in air conditioning. So I thought, that's it. A little bit sticky there. Again, probably should have oiled it beforehand, but where's the fun in that, guys? Chambers. There you have it. And now I'm ready to bring it out and talk about it. You know, when someone passes and you get something of theirs, it gives you feelings, and I don't think I was ready till this year. On a somewhat more optimistic note, though, I do also have a Ruger Standard, old school one, made back in the 70s. And this was actually a Christmas gift from my father. And the reason was, this is very likely the first gun I ever shot. It's either this or single shot 410, and I really don't remember. But chances are it was this. What I can tell you is I remember walking around with this in a leather holster. It's probably the first gun I was ever allowed to and didn't carry. And yeah, probably earliest days of my love, appreciation, enjoyment of firearms. All right, time for the Ruger. It has been a long time since I have fired this, and it's not a new gun, so we'll see. Plus, it's kind of mystery Ziploc bag ammo. Not bad. Yep. After all these years, still works. Is it thanks to this look and feel that I like the Japanese Nambu so much? It's entirely possible. And Bill Ruger obviously did too. So in this video, we're just going to have a little story time, a little sit down and chat. I'm going to give my recollections of growing up out here, learning about firearms, just reminiscing, and putting a few rounds through both of these. These are both, of course, 22 LR long rifle, and our little revolver, as I said, is a 22 short. Just because I thought it was cool. Yeah. So if you appreciate a lifelong passion of firearms, history, and also just family, please do like, share, and subscribe. And check out Patreon if you'd like to help support the channel. This is about me. See, you kind of, well, just get to know who I am, better or worse. I grew up out here. Well, it was a lot more rural back then. Dirt roads, less people. It's still rural today, but you know how society goes. And yeah, I can tell you the time of summer it is just based on the cicadas' chirp, call. Yeah, it changes throughout the summer. It really does. We're going to start off with a little North American. Get through it pretty quick. Little zipper bag I've had forever. And the same box of 22 short that's been in here forever. For some reason, I ended up with what seems like a lifetime supply of 22 short. Years ago, I noticed these, and for what they cost back then, like $100, that's why it was a birthday gift. I just thought it's neat. I like small things. That's why on my personal channel, I'll do a lot with model making and scale modeling. I think it's neat when something is small but well done, and this kind of qualifies. One neat factor is they have safety notches actually built in to the cylinder in between the chambers, so you can actually rest it in between there if you want to have a loaded cylinder and the hammer not cocked or even at half cock. I mean, half cock is usually good enough, but that's there in case you need it. See, it doesn't protrude far enough to do anything. Good for loading too. I mean, obviously it's reliable. It's a little revolver, about as simple as gets. Aside from it wanting to jump out of your hands, yeah, my hands are really sweaty, and I've been shooting a lot bigger things all day. It's one reason I like to get guns out every so often. It's just familiarization to kind of remind myself what they're like. These are North American Arms Packmeyer grips. It goes quick. Just put it essentially in half cock to get her out again. Half the time I can just do that. But it's there if you need it. One more left there. It's just fun. And still more shots than even your biggest Derringer. Just for fun, here's a 22 short, and for those who don't know, here's just a regular 22 long rifle. It is absolutely shorter. There was once upon a time what was known as 22 long. It's kind of gone by the wayside. This has been a cartridge in America since the 19th century, with 22 LR being kind of the de facto standard. And of course you get Magnum rounds, what have you. But if nothing else, out of this short barrel, it's loud enough to scare something off. And in these woods that I grew up in, people seriously carried these as snake guns or something equivalent, because it would absolutely defend you against that. You saw a lot of the old school like belt buckle 22s out there back then. Growing up, kids kind of had a progression. Start off usually being first entrusted alone with a BB gun or pellet gun, and you could upgrade to a 22 pellet gun. That meant you were trusted by your folks, because 22 pellet gun could actually put down something like a squirrel. And then you go to 22 long rifle. That was usually middle school, if you were responsible enough. And believe it or not, kids will be kids, but we were raised with enough respect and, frankly, healthy dose of fear, in a good way, of guns, that even my most goofy friends would have never dreamt back then of playing with guns. And if they were the type that had, their parents would have not trusted them with a gun. It was a major responsibility, just like a car. I mean, think about the people. You can do a lot of damage to yourself or other people with a car, and we trust 16-year-olds with them. Well, that's how guns were back then. You had to show responsibility. Of course, a lot of people hunted. But 22s were a way of life, and sometimes a way of getting food. Even when I was a kid, people would shoot quail or squirrel and, yes, eat them. But yeah, I got this gun. It wasn't like my 18th or 21st birthday, nothing special like that. It was probably 24, 25 years old. I don't remember. But it's special for that reason. But the other two guns featured in this video go back to my actual childhood. I want to say in this video, I always ask you to like, share, subscribe, support on Patreon. Maybe this video will give you a better idea of who I am and who's asking you to give your hard-earned money. And maybe give you some understanding of how I got into firearms and what they mean to me, and in some ways how they kind of became my livelihood. Or maybe not, but this is who I am. I'm being as open and honest and sincere as possible. And firearms have always played a major role in my life. Well, except from about the ages of 14 to 20, when, as I jokingly say, kind of forgot about guns as I learned about girls and beer. Not necessarily in that order, although maybe in that order. But I quickly came back to them once I had my fill of drinking. Don't do that much anymore. Girls, women, probably never get quite my fill of that. But that's a story for a different day. Let's put a few of them in. Wish we had. In theory, it's okay to dry fire these according to highest standard, but I wouldn't do it unless it's just by accident. Time for the standard, the high standard. Yep, this goes back. I realized in the shooting clips there I was sounding tired, and it's because I was. It was super hot, and we've been working all day out in it, so apologies in advance. And it's one of the two guns I was hoping to inherit, but when we had that after his guns, he wasn't a collector of military guns. That was my deal. He was a hunter. So obviously his hunting guns didn't really have any use with me. That's fine. My other family members had more use for those. This was one of two that I didn't demand or even expect, but I was like, it would be nice because it has connection. And this one was clear and easy. I had the most connection with it as far as the kids. The other one, the shotgun, well, we'll save that story for another day. It all worked out great. There was no rancor. I can say that about my family. There was no fighting over who got what. It was more about, you take it. No, you should take it. And it really was, A, what our mother said went, and B, what he would have wanted most. And so, when people die in families, the true colors come out. And I can say my family, the true colors ended up being good. People supported each other instead of fighting over what they could get. That's when inheriting things can mean a lot. And so not only does this have memories as childhood and everything, it has good family connections too. And it works well for my father because he loved old westerns. That's the era he was born in, the early 40s. So, he grew up as a kid in the 50s watching westerns. Now, where we disagreed, he was a John Wayne fan. I was a Clint Eastwood fan. Anyway, this is a high standard double 9. I'm sure you know it's got the faux grips on it. Faux gold trim. When I took it out shooting, I hadn't really done much about it since I got it. It actually had been kept in a leather holster. I would show it to you. I got it, but it has his name on it. So, I don't want to dox my family and self on here. If you know me, that's fine. But, I'm a private person, says the guy on YouTube, but I am. So, no holster, but it has a Western-style holster. And what's funny is it is in that kind of Colt single-action army style. But instead of this being an ejector rod with a loading gate, you put your cylinder out. And you've seen me firing it single action. But it is a double. Sort of on paper. It's a pull. It's really stiff, heavy, but it is smooth. But I was mostly going single action because it's so much more pleasant, frankly. And it was kind of showing its age in the fact that it hadn't really been oiled or greased up or cleaned out in a minute. And we'll put another full cylinder through the Cap 9 revolver. But it's empty. It must be the one cylinder chamber it does that on. There we go. I'll need to, like I said, haven't really oiled it or dealt with it. It'll give me something to do this evening when it's not 108 degrees according. And it's probably one of the first guns I was entrusted with to shoot on my own. No, yes, I'm blind. Have been my entire life for all intents and purposes. Now some might think, how do I do that with guns? Very carefully. I've been shooting for over 40 years, and I've never hurt anyone, myself included in that. B, while no one who's fired guns forever can say they've always been perfect. I've had negligence and accidents like everyone else. But that's the nice thing about the rules of firearms. If you're following every other rule and break one, they work with each other. So even if when I was younger I accidentally set off a gun and pulled the trigger before I meant to, I was pointing downrange. That kind of. The rules are made in such a way that really bad things can only happen if you break more than one. And I've been very careful about that because I'm not a kind of person that could hurt someone and live with that guilt. It would haunt me the rest of my life. On top of that, I knew I would never get in legal trouble, but I would probably never be trusted with guns again, and I wouldn't blame them. My point is, being blind, I had to work extra hard to earn the right to have firearms. And one of the kind of proudest days, years ago, I was cleaning a gun in the living room with my dad, and I said something about, I think I had kind of cleaned it, and it was pointing over here where he was at, and I said, hey, do you want to move, and or something like that, and he's like, no. And I said, okay, well, he goes, but I trust you. Him just saying he trusted me with a gun, i.e. his life, that he knew my judgment was sound, and that I'd already checked the chamber and all that, that meant a lot, because it takes a lot to say you trust someone you're in the room with handling a firearm. It's like Russian roulette. Only far worse odds. Yeah, not so sticky now. It just needed to wake up. Good times. These high standards were real popular back in the days. They were introduced around 1955. Sold at places like Sears. They had all kinds of versions and variants. The Western, the Sentinel. Again, the 9-shot. That was something they really promoted. And I don't blame them, because it was pretty unique for that day and time. And the double action in a Western style, like a Colt single action, it's pretty good. Especially considering these were inexpensive. Ironically, this gun and the Ruger we'll look at had the same sticker price of $37.50 in the 1950s. So it was kind of your choice. In fact, they had the same capacity, 9 shots. So which way do you want to go, Western or modern? Now, this isn't my style of gun. You can tell that. But it's okay. It's my father's style of gun. He didn't have many handguns. In fact, he only had 2 or 3. All revolvers. Yeah, he was of the era. He didn't hate automatics. He just was of an era when men had revolvers. His other one was a Ruger Blackhawk. I had a good childhood. Guns were part of it, but friends were part of it too. I grew up not with perfect people, but with good people in a community that did look after each other for the best of their ability. And I wasn't treated any different. And I mean that in all ways. I wasn't treated like I was a cripple, but I also wasn't cut slack. I did chores. Heck, I started working at my family's business after school to earn my allowance money. I was told from a very young age that I could not use my disability as a crutch. And that's something I really took to heart, and something I'm very thankful my parents adopted. But they weren't rude to me. They weren't cruel. I want to be very clear about that. If anything, they raised me and did more for me when they didn't have to. But you can't raise someone with everything being easy and given to them, and you can't raise someone with a disability to think that the world owes them something, and that the world should bend to their will. The world's not made for people like me. You have to adapt to it the best you can do. Nothing to get angry over. Don't get a chip on your shoulder. just get on with it. Get on with living. Understand that, we're not born into this world with a contract. And I do. I'm thankful for my life and my family. I have a better life than a lot of people, and I am grateful for that. If I miss out on some things, do I wish I could drive a car? Heck yeah. I don't like not being able to drive and go here or there, but I'm not going to dwell on it. We all have our crosses to bear, and I don't want to bitch and whine about mine. And while I could never play sports, football and all that, going out to shoot with friends and family, it was something, at least on certain levels, I could do with other people. And I like being outdoors. I always have. It runs in my blood. My grandfather was a game warden out here in the 1930s. I am at peace outdoors, or at least in the mountains. I'm a little bit of a wuss by the old standards. I'm not a sleep out under the stars person. Nope, I want a cabin. Yeah, I am modern, I won't lie, but I like being out here. And I do like the solitude a bit. Kind of fits in with the revolver, doesn't it? Yeah, high standard, 99. Having that hammer hitch a bit, and also the ejector kind of get sticky. I did clean it, and then went to test it the next day. Also, these are, at least in theory, double action. It's a pull, but single is. I really do think single is faster. Yeah, I think oiling her up helped a bit. Running a lot better, a lot smoother. First I cleaned it a bit, and then I gave it some basic oil, and then I used some actual like 3-in-1 type oil on the mechanics. I'll do more later. It still needs a little more TLC, but it's already kind of coming back to life. This is a work gun. They're not worth a ton of money today anyway, but something like this is kind of priceless to me personally. From my standard to the Ruger standard, and I do believe this is still the best-selling .22 of all time, or at least .22 pistol, and one of the best, most successful guns of all time. Bill Ruger made it in his garage in 1949. As I said earlier, he had a couple from a Marine buddy. His buddy Alex Sturm kind of funded the project. Unfortunately, he passed away just a couple of years after the Ruger Standard was released. And what we know today is the Mark I more or less remained unchanged until the early 70s, and they actually reworked the magazine a bit, moving the nubbin to the left side. They made some changes to the frame. And it wasn't really joined into by the Mark II until 1982. It does have a manual hold open built into the safety. But that's it. I'm gonna kind of put it to the test. I loaded the magazine to the top. I don't typically do that, especially with, yeah, that's why. Some versions do have a 10-round mag, and I loaded to the mag quit loading, and that's why I did it. I kind of felt like I over-installed a bit there. Let's try that again. There might have actually been an extra round in there. I'm not sure. We'll count and find out together. See how we do this time. It really does point very naturally. Still works. Yeah, 9 rounds, even though it let me put a 10th in. So that's not the gun's fault. Honestly, it's holding up very well. As I kind of alluded to earlier, and you know me from this channel, I do love Japanese guns. And maybe that's why when I first handled a Type 14 here, just one random one from the store, you can absolutely see the resemblance and the grip angle and the way, of course, a Type 14 charges. And I think a lot of young people grew up with these. And this gun obviously predates me. It was made early 70s. But when I was very young, this was one of the guns I was also taught to shoot with. And I'm going to tell you, as a kid, this felt like a real gun. It does. Compared to a lot of your modern 22s, this is full size, full metal. Now, yeah, it's a cast type frame, you know, not a machined one. But it pointed so naturally, so reliable. And after a while, I was allowed or wanted to carry it around. And I remember walking around the property with it. And as my dad would tell the story, I'd walk a few steps and then reach down to touch it, you know, and kind of feel it on my hip. I enjoyed having a gun on my hip from an exceedingly young age. And you know what? I never once, even as a 4, 5, 6-year-old, thought of this as a toy. Never once. I had toy guns. I had a G.I. Joe figure. This was different. Even as a kid, I knew this was real hardware. Maybe growing up in rural areas where you're around farms and stuff a lot, there were a lot of things, knives and saws and farm equipment of all variety that were real, and kids learned real quick what was and wasn't okay to play with. Now, I'm not going to say we didn't do some stuff. I think everyone around here made a potato gun as a kid, and that was probably pretty dumb. Explosive, but we would have never dreamt about playing with real guns with people. And that's thanks to our parents. I think gun ownership is absolutely a responsibility, a duty, and you have to take that seriously. That one round. Just because. As I said earlier, this was a Christmas gift, and it meant a lot back in the day. Because I am blind, because I can't see photos, because I associate people, events, good memories with objects. And I have objects attached to things, metaphorically, like a button, whatever. But it reminds me, hey, this was this person's. He carried it in his pocket or did this and that. Here is the holster I carried that around in. He actually used it before me. And when he gave me this, I jokingly said, well, what about the belt I wore as a kid? You know, just joking. For all I remember, it was just literally an old belt or a piece of rope. I mean, I was 5 years old. He looked around and found it. It was in an old container in the shop. Took a little bit to find, but not too long. Little loops for 22 there. It is kind of a gunslinger type belt. Actually fit in well with that high standard. Go real well with them. You could be a 22 gunslinger. These things matter. And being able to go out and shoot guns like these after so many years, such a connection to my childhood, upbringing, parents, family, that means a lot. And I'm not alone in that. Guns are often valued, cherished keepsakes in communities like ours, because they're both practical tools that people before us used and cared about, and symbols, and yes, sometimes they can be collectibles too. I love my Swiss guns, my HKs, but not everyone on the street has those. Very few do. But a 22 pistol, 22 revolver, almost every kid had something like that, or a 410 shotgun. We can all relate. Oh, I remember mine. Oh, that old gun, or whatever. That's what guns are for a lot of us in this area. They're not things used by gangbangers. They're not things used by police. They're not used to hurt people around here. Most of them. Some might say, well, I know this. Look, in the South here, in this part of almost everyone has at least a few guns. And most every single gun around here, 99.99%, have never hurt a human being. Now, that's not to say they can't and won't. I, growing up, knew people who died through hunting accidents or cleaning their gun accidents. So I'm not unaware of the potentiality there. But a tool is just that. It's an inanimate object. It's what we imbue it with. And guns like this, they're imbued with good things, good feelings, good vibes. And a lot of guns are. They're not deadly evil objects. Some could be, stolen guns, guns used in drug deals. That's not good. I know a lot of people that have the ick for concentration camp or SS type guns. I understand. Some people don't like guns from Stalin's Soviet Russia. Understandable. You enjoying the cicadas out here? Because to me, this puts me to sleep. I know they bug people, some people, but it's kind of what you grew up with. So we all have our own personal lines, and that's cool too. Let's put another mag through it. Why not? We're already hot and sweaty. And 22s, there are many things. They always need cleaning. It does have a very natural point. It does kind of feel like coming home. Not gonna lie. My father, the man who raised me, has been gone over 4 years now. And he lived to a good age, and he went out the way he wanted. And he raised me to the best of his ability. And I think a very successful way. Was he perfect? No. Who is? There are very few other people in my life that have ever cared about me to that extent. Very few. And I'm lucky to have had even one, not to mention more than one. And that's the kind of feelings I have surrounding guns. Growing up with them. I don't feel like I'm some badass. I don't feel any kind of soldier of fortune thing. Although I do remember playing Rambo as a kid. First Blood had come out. It's good feelings. It's a sense of community. And it was a way for me to belong. It was a way for me to interact with my peers. Because being disabled, there's a lot of things that I could not participate in. But I could participate in my own way with firearms. Now, I never could be an accurate shot. I never could go hunting. But you know what I could do? I could be knowledgeable. I could learn about the history and the mechanics. If it was something basic, I'd help a friend fix a gun or a family member. Now, I'm no gunsmith if it required that, but I could learn how they worked. And I could get involved in teaching firearms history. So that's what I did. I found the niche that I could do and did it to the best of my ability. And that's what I do here on YouTube as well. I know, my videos aren't the greatest. I know they're overly long. I'm aware of that. But they're me. I would rather do a video that I'm personally proud of and that is an honest reflection of who I am, instead of chasing trends and clout and just, modifying who I am to fit what the YouTube algorithm wants. In other words, I would be a really shitty actor. I'm just me, and I want to just be me. And that doesn't mean I think I'm perfect. Trust me, I beat myself up all the time for the things I get wrong. And I've tried to be as safe, responsible with guns as I can be my entire life. And I try to research, if my job is to know them historically, mechanically, that's what I try to do to the best of my ability. And that's what I try to share with you guys. And I hope you get some enjoyment and appreciation out of it. I really do. I enjoy helping people. Because the thing I don't want to is feel like I'm a burden or I don't contribute to society. I want to feel like I pull my weight in society. I enjoy being needed, quite frankly. One reason I have a 3-legged cat. That's what gives me joy. And that's who I am. Like I said at the beginning of the video, this is an in-depth look at who I am and where I grew up. I could tell you about my faults. I know them. Some of you know them too. But those who accept me for my faults, and I them, those are true friends and family. How's this related to guns? I don't know, but somehow it is. It's all about growing up. No, I'm not on any kind of government stuff, disability, nothing. I work for a living. I pay my taxes. And that's why support on YouTube, support on Patreon is really necessary. I don't know how else to put it. This is my job. It's what I have open to me. I've tried other jobs, but, well, it's not as easy as some might think. And I'm fine with that. But just know, those who do support, it's greatly appreciated. And, frankly, needed. How else to put it? Because I don't take sponsorships. You don't see me promoting whatever Ridge Wallet or what's the VPN crap, or even gun companies. I don't have a gun company sponsor. I don't want either. I'd rather just be me, like I was saying earlier. I'd rather be sincere to who I am. So those who do support know that, I guess for lack of a better word, it is going to what I hope's a good cause. Because I've always lived my life trying not to use my disability as a crutch. And I hope I'm succeeding. I hope I'm pulling my weight. Oh, these double actions on these. They are a special breed. So if you do support on Patreon, know that. And if you've thought about doing it, well, that's what it's going for. So if you'd like to pitch in, that would be really helpful. You can also do super thanks on YouTube. But if none of that is possible, I understand. Liking, sharing, subscribing, looking at older videos, telling buddies, those all help. a great deal too. With that, even though it's evening, it's hot and sticky out here. So I think I'm going to head in, fix Peanut some dinner, fix myself some dinner, and put these up. Hope you enjoyed this kind of very different type of video. Hope everyone's having a good start to their August. And I'll keep on keeping on, and I'll keep on being here. This is Misha, and thanks for attending my TED Talk. Catch you very soon next time.